all eyes on this crucial meet between the farmers and the government that's currently underway now for more than an hour. Representative, let's tell you a little bit about the composition of who's inside. And remember, this is something that everybody should be keeping tabs on because this affects the entire country. Representatives from 35 farmer unions are holding talks with Team Modi. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar and Railway Minister Piyush Goyal are present. You saw them in those images just now. The government has given its presentation to the farmers on the mandis regulation and MSP issues. Sources suggest that the farmers will be reassured over MSP, but will be informed that there will be no rollback of the new laws possible at this time. Earlier in the day, Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar and Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister, met at BJP Chief JP Nadda's house to discuss the government's strategy in the wake of these unrelenting protests that have been on for 5 days and counting.
मैं हूँ, माननीय सोम प्रकाश जी हैं, माननीय पीयूष गोयल जी हैं, बाकी अधिकारी रहेंगे। हम लोग तो समाधान करने के लिए चर्चा करने को पूरी तरह तैयार हैं। अब देखते हैं, बातचीत होगी। उनका प्रस्ताव आए ना, तब विकल्प की बात तो बाद में उठती है कि अभी बैठक में बातचीत होगी। बातचीत में जो चर्चा में डिस्कस निकलेंगे तब बताएंगे आप।
किसान देश की रीढ़ है और वो जो उनकी हकमारी हो रही है उसके खिलाफ लड़ रहे हैं। हमें सब लोगों को, देश के सब लोग उसके साथ खड़े होने चाहिए। देश के किसान बर्बाद हो जाएंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि देश खुशहाल नहीं हो सकता। तो आज मैं अपनी जिम्मेदारी अदा करने आया हूँ। लोकतंत्र में हमें जब भी किसी के साथ अन्याय उसके साथ खड़ा होना चाहिए और मैं अन्याय बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकता, इसलिए मैं आज सड़क पर।
पहले खेती बड़ी जो सेक्रेटरी है उसने बुलाया, उसके बाद मिनिस्टर्स ने बुलाया, अब अमित शाह जी बुला रहे हैं। इसके बाद तो मोदी रहते हैं और तो कोई रहता नहीं। सरकार अंडर प्रेशर है। नहीं, हम तो कह के हम कानून रद्द करवा के रहेंगे। देश का संघर्ष हो गया और संघर्ष बहुत बड़ा हो रहा है। हमारे को देश विदेश से बड़ी सपोर्ट आ रही है। किसान तो गाँव से आए हैं कि कानून रद्द करवा के मुड़ना। सरकार भी प्रेशर में है। अब अमित शाह के बाद तो मोदी जी है ना, तो अब उन्होंने मीटिंग बुलाई है तो जरूर कुछ करना चाहिए उनको।
मीटिंग करने आए, तीने कानून, चौथा बिजली वाला, पंजवा पराली वाला, 5 के 5 रद्द कराएंगे। जिन्हें जो रद्द नहीं होते उन्हें चिर हम बॉर्डरों से नहीं जाएंगे।
उम्मीद तो कभी छोड़ी नहीं, पर ज्यादा उम्मीद के साथ नहीं आए। जो मोदी जी कल यूपी में बोल के आए उसके साथ ज्यादा नहीं लगती।
Rahul, if I could come back to you now, like you said, this is likely to be the first of a series of meetings. No great hopes of any kind of big breakthrough. While the government is likely to reassure, as we speak, reassuring the farmers on the issue of MSP, the mandi issue is likely to be the bigger sticking point. The government has so far been harping on the fact that the farmers have been misled. If they are being misled, is it likely that the government will have some kind of clear assurance to the farmers today in this meeting, Rahul?
Shiv, it's a very complex and issue which involves a lot of stakeholders. Agriculture in this country never had a very holistic view. It was also a state subject. And in that there have been experiments which have never been wholesome. They have been rather piecemeal. And the farmer in the country has eventually always felt cheated. Why I say that? Barely 20 to 30% of India's agrarian tract is irrigated. There are virtually no irrigation, dependent on the vagaries of nature, floods, droughts and everything. And after all that, with very fluctuating input prices, the farmer somehow produces what he brings to the market.
Yes.
And he has never got what is called an appropriate remuneration. Say, for example, Punjab, we take example, 90% odd is procured by the government, MSP is ensured. Punjab farmers, their land holding is 3 times that of the farmer in Bihar. Now imagine 90% of that or more is procured in Punjab, so they are better off than in Bihar where barely 20 to 25% is procured.
Yes.
Farmers in Bihar are much worse off where there is no APMC mechanism abolished by Nitish Kumar government after he came to power in 2005. Now these are the two diverse ends of the element, that you have no protest where there is no mechanism. There are protests where there is a mechanism. Means there is something that required to allay the fears of the farmers, a proper mechanism. Now, for example, if you allow me time,
yes.
If you take cereals, there is an MSP there. Now, over the last so many years, farmers have got MSP allegedly for their farm produce, but still the growth of cereals has not exceeded beyond 1.5% to maximum 3%. Whereas in the sectors where government presence is lower, say for example milk production. Milk production is largely procured by the private players. In that, the growth is nearly over 5 to 10%. Why is that happening? That despite the presence of the private players, that sector is growing better. The farmers are not very big. They have 2 cows, 3 cows, or 2 buffaloes. But still, the presence of cooperatives and a more healthy, dynamic system has ensured that despite private players, there is, say for example, Amul is a great success story in milk production. Poultry is growing better than cereals. Animal husbandry, fisheries, why are they growing better than cereals? There is something terribly amiss. The crisis is corruption in the system. And that corruption needs to be addressed, and the government needs to create better rules. And that is why the government which is talking today should have talked much earlier to the farmers in a much more wholesome manner, in a much more diverse section should have been taken for creating the farm laws. The farmers are apprehensive that whatever they have, they are going to lose today. And that is why there is politics now creeping in. There are vested interests which are driving. And there are now some vague charges being made by people like Mr. M.L. Khattar that Khalistanis may take over the agitation. Instead of addressing the problem, there is certain amount of blame apportioning which is happening.
No, there's a great deal of politics, great deal of divergent vested interests, as you rightly put it, Rahul, which have been pulling in different directions and possibly bedeviling an early solution to the current face-off, much less than the larger systemic problem that needs to be addressed as far as agriculture in this country is concerned. Many differences between states as well, and a huge amount of curiosity across the country over why the farmers protesting are only happening in Punjab and not across the country. I want to go across to Kunal, my colleague, who's at the Ghazipur border of Delhi, where there have been protests there as well. Kunal, you've been interacting with many of the protesting farmers. What are they saying about the talks that are going on right now? What kind of hopes do they have? What are the next steps?
See, as Rahul was explaining, if we will talk about a bigger canvas on a broader level, there are certain things which are needed to be explained. But here I am talking to farmers all through the day. But these farmers, which are from some or other farmer unions, they are not very much aware about all about the 3 laws whom they are opposing. Although all the farmers are telling that the government bill is not pro-farmer, that is anti-farmer, but what are the clauses which are anti-farmer? Many of them are not actually aware, but still most of them are of the view that at least MSPs should be insured. And what is actually happening, most of the farmers at Ghazipur are from Western UP or Uttarakhand, and even even their paddy crop which went to the mandis in last few months, they didn't get even half of the MSP. Even same is happening with the sugar cane. Even last year's price they are not getting. आप लोगों को जो दिक्कत है एमएसपी को लेकर के, क्या दिक्कत है, आप लोगों को क्या मुश्किल आ रही है, क्यों आप लोगों को लगता है कि उस पर सरकार कुछ नहीं कर रही?
नहीं, कुछ सरकार करी नहीं उस पर। सरकार ने तो ये 3 बिल लाके किसान को बिल्कुल बर्बाद तबाह कर दिया।
आप बताओ कि क्या है, क्या दिक्कत है?
एमएसपी न्यूनतम समर्थन मूल्य मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस, सरकार ये कह रही है कि 50% किसानों को मिल रहा है, लेकिन धरातल पे यह है कि किसानों को 5 से 6% एमएसपी भारत सरकार देने का काम कर रही। दूसरी बात, 3 अध्यादेश जब सरकार इस महामारी के दौर में किसान पर थोपने का काम कर रही, तो सरकार को इतना देखना चाहिए था कि न्यूनतम समर्थन मूल्य जिसके लिए किसान आजादी के समय से दरबदर की ठोकरें खाता फिर रहा है, वो आपने किसान को नहीं दिया, तो कम से कम इस प्राइवेट सेक्टर के दौर में आप उसमें कहीं न कहीं एमएसपी सरकार को ऐड करना चाहिए।
क्या आपको लगता है बात बनेगी? अभी जो बात चल रही है,
देखो डेलीगेशन गया हुआ है, अगर बात बनती है तो ठीक है, अन्यथा किसान पूर्ण रूप से तैयार खड़ा है हर एक परिस्थिति से निपटने के लिए।
एक्चुअली हैपनिंग on the ground, और there are a few more farmers. आप बताइए
कौन सा चैनल है?
नहीं, आप बताइए कि क्या लगता है एमएसपी
आज तक है ना। आप एक बात बताओ, मोदी की सरकार है, 6 साल हो गए,
पूरा पीरियड जा लिया। नो बताओ ये झूठ क्यों बोल रहा है? पहले तो
आपको पैसा मिल रहा है?
कहाँ था?
कोई भी गन्ने का?
हाँ मिल रहा। गन्ने का तो इन्हों कहा था जब सत्ता में था, इन्हों कहा था अब गन्ना तोड़ लो और वहीं पेमेंट मिलेगा साथ। और आज 18 दिन हो गए, पिछला पेमेंट दिया।
Explaining that for 18 months they are waiting for their payments. Sugar mills, they are procuring sugar cane, but they are not paying them off, and that's what the real issue is. Why these farmers are agitated that they are not even getting what they are putting their effort and prices in the agriculture. They are not even getting them back. That's why they are more agitated and they are more concerned about MSP rather than other subjects.
Stay with me, Kunal and Rahul. Let's just tell you a little bit about the government's plan, because, most of what we've heard so far has been rhetoric. But here is what the government's action plan really is. And much of it obviously echoing in that crucial meeting that's taking place right now in Delhi's Vigyan Bhawan, as well as that presentation that's been given to the farmers. Reassure the farmers on the issue of minimum support price, or MSP, is of course the main thing, but that's the easy part. The government is also looking to reassure farmers on the mandi system, but this is much more tricky and the farmers are definitely not convinced just yet. Convey that a law rollback, the farm law rollback, is not possible. Let's talk, but the farm law rollback is not possible. Clear the farmers' doubts on the farm laws. Whatever the smaller nitty-gritties may be, there are broad strokes as far as MSP and mandi is concerned, but what are the smaller issues that the farmers want reassurances on? And also propose panels for future talks. Create a kind of system for discussion between the farmers and the government on this particular issue. So today is day 6. It is the 6th day of the farmers' protest, in which the final contact between the two sides, the government and the farmers, is taking place, and those talks are happening. But Delhi's borders are completely chock-a-block with traffic against these 3 new farm laws passed by the centre. Protesting farmers are continuing to block at least 4 border points in north and northwest Delhi, and maintain that they will not be dialing down the intensity of these protests until MSP, minimum support price, is assured and the new farm laws are rolled back or nullified. Well, along the Delhi-UP border at Ghazipur, some farmers broke barricades with their tractors. More dramatic scenes, as we've seen, escalating in the last 5 days. The situation is now under control. Farmers continue to be aggressive. Heavy traffic jams in the Delhi-Gurugram border amidst heavy security over these continuing protests. Well, the protests, of course, are not going to die down anytime soon, even after Prime Minister Modi yesterday attempted to allay fears regarding the laws and proposed talks to dispel apprehensions. Let's now take a look at the places which are witnessing the farmer protests. If you live in the national capital region especially, this is probably something you're already familiar with, but pay very close attention because this changes day to day. The Narela border in the north part of Delhi, locals have been complaining of a lot of traffic inconvenience and being holed up. The Singhu border is another entry point into Delhi. Nearly 10,000 farmers have been camping. Many of the visuals you're seeing of these protests are actually from the Singhu border. The Burari ground, there is about 1,500 farmers at that protest site. This was earmarked and proposed by the government for where the farmers should protest at before talks can happen. They refused, but talks are still happening. Jantar Mantar, which is in the heart of New Delhi, the farmers wanted to protest here. The Tikri border estimates to have about 1,500 farmers camping there. Ghazipur, where my colleague Kumar Kunal is reporting from as we speak, has about 500 to 700 farmers, and also present at the Noida border, where strict security is currently in place. The Faridabad border with Haryana has heavy checking taking place, and like we just told you, the Gurugram border, no protests, but heavy security in that particular area as well. So almost all major entry points into Delhi have security and the presence of large numbers of farmers. Something that our National Affairs editor Rahul Srivastav was just referring to. Big escalating, spiraling controversy over the alleged presence of Khalistani elements in the farmers' protest stir. Well, days after Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar hinted at the presence of Khalistani elements, Congress MP Rajnath Bittu has alleged that some Khalistani elements have indeed infiltrated this agitation. Bittu, who was speaking to India today, said that rogue elements can give a bad name to the farmers' agitation and must be driven away by the farmers themselves. Yesterday, the BJP too made a similar charge, with its IT cell chief Amit Malviya alleging Khalistanis and Maoists among a section of the protesters. The BJP had pointed to alleged slogans of the Sikh separatist movement raised by protesters. Meanwhile, JNU left-wing students and the Bhim Army have joined the stir. Southern superstar Kamal Haasan too said the government should have dialogue with the farmers.
यहाँ पे ये कुछ लोग हैं जो इनको किसान जथेबंदियां जल्दी से जल्दी कंट्रोल करें और भगाएं इनको यहाँ से। नहीं, पंजाब में जब ये जाएंगे, अब यहाँ जितनी देर ये बैठेंगे हम चाहते नहीं है अभी इस एजुकेशन को कोई चीज खराब करे, लेकिन पंजाब में जाके हम जरूर इनसे निपटेंगे। हम पहचानते नहीं इनको कौन है ये। यहाँ ठीक है, बाकी स्टेट में अगर आप इनको कुछ कहोगे तो ये और खालिस्तान की बात करते हैं, फिर मिनॉरिटी की फिक्रों की बात करेंगे। अब आप नहीं कर सकते इनको, लेकिन जब ये पंजाब में जाएंगे वहां हम इनका ध्यान रखेंगे। खालिस्तानी कोई होगा तो सबसे पहले वो हमें गोली मारेगा, हम लड़ने वाले हैं खालिस्तान के लिए।
आप ये कह रहे बिट्टू जी, आप ये कह रहे हैं कि इसमें कुछ खालिस्तानी एलिमेंट है, आप ये कह रहे हैं कि इनको आप आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं?
100% है इसमें। अगर कोई आप बताइए, कोई किसान किसी को गाली निकाल सकता है? आप बताइए, किसान किसी को मुर्दाबाद कह सकता है? किसान किसी को ठोकने की बात कह सकता है? वो तो बेचारे पीछे रोटियां बना रहे हैं, अपनी ठंड में बैठे हैं। ये जो लोग हैं, ये कहीं ना कहीं कहां से आए, ये एजुकेशन को भी खराब कर रहे हैं।
चुनाव में जिसके सामने आप गिड़गिड़ाते हैं, आज उसको आप आतंकवादी कह रहे हैं। शहीद आजम भगत सिंह के वंशजों को, शहीद आजम उधम सिंह के वंशजों को आप आतंकवादी कह रहे हैं? आपको शर्म नहीं आ रही है?
All he has to do is pan and look at my farmers. Have a dialogue. It is long overdue. I'm not even saying please. You must have a dialogue.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.